napalm in the morning. You know, one time we had a hail bomb for 12 hours. When it was all over, I walked up. We didn't find one of them, not one stinking dink body. Smell! You know that gasoline smell? The whole hill. Smelled like victory.
Do you remember what inspired you to write Apocalypse Now?
Well, I was going to, to USC, and I was the guy who wrote everything in my class, and I was always looked upon to write stuff, and so I knew I was going to be a writer of some sort. And I remember while the war was going on, I kept thinking of what a great movie this would make and all this kind of thing. And then in one of my writing classes, our number one writing teacher, who was a real tough old guy, Erwin Blacker. And Mr. Blacker would, he would teach you the form, where the exterior went before the day, and all that. And if you put those backwards, you flunked right there. If there was any mistake in the form, if you didn't, say what characters were there on each thing and put this, there was a very strict form, kind of a television form there. And if you made one mistake in the form, he wouldn't read it. You just throw the thing in the wastebasket. And he was right, because he was putting this discipline, he's saying, I'm going to treat you like professionals. That the least you're going to get when you come out of this class is you're going to be able to write something that looks like a screenplay.
Right.
At least it'll be in the proper form. It may have nothing to say,
right,
or it may be, unintelligible, but it's going to look like a screenplay.
So you get at least them to open it up and read it.
Yeah, and one of the things, and what he would do is, he had a wonderful thing that he would tell stories, because he was one of the few teachers then who had actually worked in Hollywood. And so he would tell a lot of wonderful Hollywood stories, about, lunch with Loretta Young or something like this, exotic kind of things from his day. And one of the stories that he told, and he would constantly sit there and he would say that many people had tried to make Heart of Darkness, that Orson Welles had tried and failed, and nobody could lick Heart of Darkness. Well, that was like waving a red flag in front of a young bull. That was the worst thing that he could say. I immediately set out to make Heart of Darkness.
Well, you had read by then Conrad, correct?
I'd read it when I was 17, and I read it once, and I didn't want to go back and read it again, because I felt it had so impressed me,
right,
that I felt like other things that I had dreamed it. And I sort of had this vision. I didn't want to get it. I didn't want to go back and fool with it some more and say, well, this is what really happened here. I had my own kind of vision of it.
And even with that, it reads like it's very close to the novel.
Yeah, well, it's a pretty obvious story, and I mean, there were things that I put in that were like the Dennis Hopper character. There is a character similar to that, in Heart of Darkness, but not really, and this Russian guy who's up there talking to Kurtz and stuff, and I sort of envisioned this crazy photographer, because there was, a number of these photographers in Vietnam at the time who were, running around, and Errol Flynn's son was one of them who was lost. But I didn't want to go back and get it exactly right. I wanted to have it sort of be more of a, but I wanted to call him Colonel Kurtz. I wanted to have things like this so that you knew it was Heart of Darkness.
Right. The horror.
And,
but the napalm line, of course, has become the stuff of folklore. I mean, it's a part of our language. I mean, somebody just said it today to me. I mean, I love the smell of napalm in the morning. It's still there.
Yeah,
it's a great line.
But see, it's funny, because those lines like that, or the lines in Dirty Harry, or things that I've done, that like the scene in Jaws or something. And people say, when you wrote that stuff, did you know that this? I said, well, of course not. How would you know that anybody would repeat that line?
Right.
I mean, when I wrote that line in particular, I thought, well, this is over the top. This is the first thing they'll take out.